the first thing I really want to ask you is, you're someone who is you've always kind of put yourself out there as a content creator, in business and in marketing and everywhere. You're kind of known for that. Um, when people are getting started, a lot of times in business or creating content, they sort of feel maybe like, in terms of how the world is today and everything, people are kind of hesitant, I think, to put themselves out there. And there are people who say, like, it's a lot easier when you're just getting started to lose a subscriber or lose a follower than it is to gain one. What do you say to that? Is that true? And what would you say to people who are kind of hesitant to put themselves out there because they're worried about that?
That there's strength in being polarizing. It's so obvious. Just look at Donald Trump. You either, and listen, both ways, they have a lot of feelings about him. And so if people have a lot of feelings about you, both good or bad, that means that you're charging people up, and that creates attraction. So like, he's such a great example because you either love him, you got these people who, like, they're Trump maniacs, and they got his plastered all over their car and wearing his clothes, and he's the best thing that's ever happened in the world. He's like a god to them. And then you got some people that he's literally Satan, and they hate him so bad that everything that he says, they hang on to every word and criticize it. Both types of people are feeding his empire, feeding his character, feeding the monster that is Donald Trump, because he's so damn polarizing. Now, what wouldn't work is if he was boring. Mm-hmm. When you're neutral, when you're bland, when you're gray, when you're lukewarm, you're very easy to dismiss. Nobody cares. So the kiss of death, if you really want to suck in business, don't say anything polarizing. Be very neutral. Be for everybody. Because as I say, when you're for everybody, you're for nobody.
Did you kind of know that instinctually when you first started? Or like, did you kind of go into it thinking, I'm going to be authentic, I'm just going to sort of put it all out there? Or did you kind of learn that as you went along?
It comes naturally to me. It's just my nature. It's funny because, like, even if you meet my dad, he's the same way. It's genetic. I don't know how else to say it. I was raised this way. It's in my DNA. It's just who I am. I'll always be this way. But I got permission to do it by watching guys like Dan Kennedy and Paul Chek, some of my earliest mentors.
Okay.
And so when I saw them doing it, I was like, oh, well, that looks like a lot of fun. That'll come naturally to me. I can do it because, just like everybody else, when I first got started in business, I thought I needed to be professional. I thought I needed to, be in the box, cut and square and neat and clean. Mm-hmm. And that's a stretch for me. That's hard for me. That was me putting on. But the minute I began to notice that there are those that prescribe to a different way, a way that's more congenial to me, it was very easy for me to just shed that BS and just be myself. I was like, oh, okay, this is good marketing.
Yeah. Have you ever felt challenged on that? Like, over the years, you're someone who has been seen as, or described by some people as, controversial. Some of the videos you've made or the positions you've taken. And I'm curious because, like, especially with YouTube, and I know you've evolved, but obviously you kind of started as a YouTuber. In a lot of ways, that's kind of how you got popular. And it's on YouTube, people get a lot of hate, I think, more than in other places, just because of the ease of sort of the anonymity sometimes of, like, comments and things like that. Have you ever felt anything from that, in terms of, like, did that ever make you just, like, react in any kind of way, or feel like, I'm getting a lot of hate for this? Does that bother you at all?
It's so funny because naturally those things don't bother me.
Okay.
And then so I would let those things kind of roll off my back. But then I started to watch other YouTubers that did let it bother them. And so they would respond, they would react, and it would create like momentum. And it's like, wow, they're going back and forth. This is this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I don't know if it was FOMO or what, but like I was watching other people do that. I was like, maybe I should react. Maybe I should respond. And when I did, I wasn't prepared for what that meant. That's a particular genre. That's a kind of way of being, and you have to be prepared to back that and to be contentious and to defend yourself. I'm not, as strange as it may sound, I'm not interested in defending myself or arguing my points or trying to be right. I just have opinions. I have my opinion, and I could care less if you believe my opinion or not.
Right.
And I'm not interested in defending my opinion. I might even change my opinion. Anybody who's followed me long enough, they've seen, wow, this guy changes his opinion. I'm just having fun with ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So the way to have fun, it's so funny because the word fun is like humor. To be humorous is to be humble, right? That's why comedians can dish it out, and they can handle it too, because they're lighthearted. They're just like, I'm just having fun. And so if you make fun of a comedian, he'll usually handle it very well. And so I forgot that I'm just having fun when I started to respond to people, because I saw that it was a thing that people were doing. And it was probably the biggest mistake that I ever made. Should you not do that? I don't know. Should other people not do it? No, I don't know. But for me, given what my intention is and how I approach the work that I'm doing, I don't need to respond to anybody. I just get to have fun being me. If they don't like it and they have something to say and they want to chew up their gums about it, that's good. All that's going to do is just draw more attention to me.
And by like responding when it was a mistake, you're saying like you would kind of like make videos responding to things that people were attacking you for, or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause I'm eccentric, and I'll say crazy things.
Right.
And so early in my career, I did it once, and I was like, I ain't never doing this again. And I wasn't nearly as controversial as I am now. I'm saying all kinds of stuff that piss off entire segments of the population. So, but I don't respond at all.
What about because you haven't been like canceled. I mean, that was a big thing for a while, cancel culture, and it's kind of like fading a little bit now, but you were banned, right, from TikTok. You've had YouTube videos get banned, things like that, right?
My TikTok was banned this week again, permanently banned for, I gotta say, this is almost a dozen times. I think this may be like number 9.
And they say it's a permanent ban, and then they lift it.
I've had legit permanent bans and then temporary permanent bans. So I don't think TikTok knows what they're doing. So every once in a while they'd be like, permanent ban, and then like a week later I'm like, or even 3 weeks later, I'll just notice that my account, no words, nothing, no apology, no explanation, just all of a sudden my account's back.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Someone's changing the rules over there. They got someone that likes you and someone that doesn't like you too much. But
I think so. I'm polarizing, so that's what they expected.
And so those kind of things though don't bother you, obviously, like when these platforms take a position against you.
No, it doesn't. The only thing that bothers me is things that affect my bottom line. Right. And so if I was erased from social media completely, I could care less. I could disappear. It really doesn't matter to me. But those are all revenue generating resources. So you're cutting food to my table. And so that's the only reason why, that's the only thing that bothers me. It's like, you shut me up, you don't like my opinion, whatever, I don't care. But you shut off my resources, of course, that's the thing that, keeps a business alive.
Right. Well, you've had an email list for a while, right? When did you, what year would that have been that you started your email list?
2005. 2005.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I started my very first foray into any of this is email marketing. That's where I began. I took a workshop. So of course I was a trainer,
Mhm.
and I wanted to know how to get more clients. And so I started, studying online stuff. Back in the day, I was creating my own websites. Now you guys may create your own websites, but you're not creating fucking websites. You're using ClickFunnels
Right.
or HubSpace or whatever, Squarespace. Bro,
Right.
I taught myself HTML. I was making websites with code. And so, back in the day, I was like trying to figure out how does this internet thing work so that I can get leads for my gym. And then and around the same time, I discovered, oh, ebooks. I can sell my workouts online. So the very first course I took was I forget what it was called, but it was Matt Basak. And
Okay.
if you don't know his name, you don't know the man that coined the term squeeze page.
Okay.
He's the guy that coined
Wow.
the term squeeze page. He said that, this is an email landing page, but I call it a squeeze page. And
Mhm.
I mean, people don't really call it that much anymore. Maybe they do in some circles. You're an email guy, so you would know. But
You hear it once
I,
in a while, but not
yeah, it's kind of an old school term because I
right.
learned it back in 2005 from the guy
Right.
who made it up. And so he said, when I took this course, it was he was in Georgia, and I took the class. He said, there's only two websites you need. And he says, everybody gets this wrong. They're out there creating the wrong kind of websites. They're creating branding websites. And to this day, still everybody does that. They're creating branding websites that tell you all about them, tell you all about how cool they are, flashy, glamoury, all kinds of branding. He says, you don't need a branding website. All you need is a squeeze page and a sales letter. He says, if you have a squeeze page and a sales letter, you'll never go broke. And so he taught us how to create. And back then, I mean, it was HTML. And he split tested the best squeeze page back then, all blue,
Mhm.
square in the middle, above the fold, no scrolling, either Arial font or Times New Roman, headline, subheadline, name, and email address. And that was it. Don't
Yeah.
put any pictures. Don't get fancy with the colors. Blank. So you could just imagine back in the day when people saw that, it was like a purple cow because
Mhm.
it was a brand new thing. You try to build a business today with one of those pages, people are going to look at you like, what are you trying to put a virus on my website?
Yeah.
But back then, that's what converted best,
Right.
according to Matt Basak. I forget what he called himself, but he was like the email millionaire maker, something like that. But
Okay.
you should go look him up.
Yeah. No, for sure. So this was you were at the time. Let's actually go back a little bit because I want to get into this a little more, your backstory and sort of how you became uh Elliott Hulse, who we all know. Uh you had a gym at that time when you were starting your email list, you were trying to get clients, or you didn't have a gym yet, but you were a personal trainer, right? And you were
Correct.
trying to get clients for personal training, and that's what you started building your email list for.
Correct.
Okay. And this would have been like you said, like 2005.
Yeah.
Wow. I was in I'd have been in eighth grade in 2005. That's like the internet was, I'm just trying to picture like what was I doing on the internet in 2005?
Google
I mean,
basically just came out. And so
yeah.
all you had to do was I just moved to St. Petersburg, right? I lived in New York. I moved down here about 2005.
Okay.
2004, I moved down here. This was probably closer to 2005, 2006. All you had to do is create a page that had your keyword in the title bar,
Hmm.
and you ranked the next day. So I went and I was like,
Wow.
wow, there's nobody here ranking for personal trainer in St. Petersburg, just doesn't exist. And so I created a website, squeeze page, personal trainer St. Petersburg. Get your free whatever, I forget what it was at the time, by entering your email here, and then I would follow up with leads.
how did you know to start looking into that world, I guess? Because you said you went through a training by Matt Basak. How did you find that? Did it find you somehow, or did you have any like influence that told you like look at online marketing?
Yeah. So back in like 1998, I was a sophomore in college. I was a sophomore and junior. And my best friend, he was a linebacker on the football team. I was a nose guard. And he and I would hang out all the time. His name was Rich. And he started selling sporting betting tips on AOL chat rooms.
Okay.
So he would go to these AOL chat rooms and strike up conversations and say, hey, I'll give you free tips on who's going to win the game tonight. And then he started to develop a reputation for having really good picks. Apparently that's a thing. People will buy picks. They don't want to choose the sports team that's going to win themselves because, you know, maybe they're wrong. So they'll rather pay someone for their pick.
Right.
And he was good at making picks. So he makes like $30,000 in his first month selling picks. That's so funny, picks, because, you know, now they got like, you know, you're selling like feet picks and shit on
right.
OnlyFans. Well, he was selling picks, betting picks. And I was like, this is mind blowing. I was like, well, how are you doing this? And he showed me. And it was, he was more of a hustler than I was, meaning like he's willing to do just like scammy shit to make money. Always rich. He's, to this day, that's the way he is. And he's rich.
Okay. I was going to say, like, did this work out for him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, if you're getting into the internet in 1998, you're pushing on a gold mine at that point.
Yeah, he's doing well.
That's cool.
So I looked over his shoulder and see what he was doing. And I was like, there's something about this internet thing that makes sense. I'm going to make money. And I decided back then, I'm going to make my living with this internet thing. I didn't even have an email address. Did not even have an email address. But I knew, I was like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. And so I was into health and fitness. And so I started a website. I created, again, HTML ass website. It was an affiliate website where I sold health and fitness products, health and fitness products. It was called Primal Edge. Was that what it was called? Yeah, something like that. Primal Edge or something like that. And then I wrote an ebook about it and all that kind of stuff. So that was my first online business.
You were doing all of that. You were writing ebooks and building essentially funnels before they existed in just late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, there was no term called funnels.
Right.
That didn't even exist. That's a new term.
Right. Yeah, man. The internet was so different back. You know what sticks out? This is weird, but like what I remember of the internet in that time, like 7th, 8th grade, was that in school, kids were getting like in trouble for creating websites about other kids. I grew up in New Jersey, so it was a rough, like there was some website that started going around the school where you would log in and see where you fell on the list. So there'd be the cool list, the weird list, and the gay list actually was the other one. I looked up my name and I was on the weird list, and I was like, man, how did I get on the weird list, dude? Like, how do I get on the cool list? You know? And that was like the thing, but like, I remember the principal or something, like people were cracking down on this saying, how do we shut this down? And they didn't know how to. And I guess constitutionally, there were probably some issues with that, but it was like a big deal. That's like my memory of the internet in those days. But anyway, though, I wish I had found your site back then. Yeah, I know that was what cyberbullying was starting. But but okay, so you moved to St. Pete, Florida, and you became a personal trainer at that point. What sort of motivated you to do that? You said you were into fitness and you played football and everything. Did you want to be a personal trainer in those years, kind of like throughout high school and college, or did you?
Oh yeah, always. I
Okay.
knew I was going to be a personal trainer since I was like 14 years old.
Why? What made
Because
you
my
want to
uncle
get?
was. My uncle
Okay.
was a black belt in kung fu. He was a bodybuilder. He ran marathons, just all around athletic badass, and grew up, teaching me and my brothers how to like do push-ups and pull-ups and stuff in the basement. So I was a lot stronger and faster than the other kids. Number one for genetics, but also number two because my uncle basically was a trainer before training was a thing. He was like he got like the very first personal training certification in like in 1993 or something. And I thought it was the coolest thing because here it is. All my life, I've just watched people get jobs. Right? I know my dad has a job, my family, everybody, my mom works. So you get a job.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle shows up one day. And he's like, "I quit my job," and my whole family's like, "What are you talking about, Uncle Elroy?" He's like, "Yep. Now I just spend the whole day at the gym teaching people how to get fit," and it was like mind blowing. It was like, wait a second, because he was also teaching me how to lift around the same time. So I was like one of his first clients. So my mind was just blown. I was like, wait a second, so you don't have a job? Like, nope. You don't have a boss? No. I was like, so what do you do? He's like, clients hire me and I take them into the gym and I show them how to work out so they can build muscle or they can lose weight. I was like, so what are your hours? Like, how does that work? Do you punch in at a certain time and leave a certain time? He's like, no, I choose whatever hours I want to work and I take clients during those hours. And to me, that was music to my ears. I was like, wow, that's exactly what I'm going to do when
Okay.
I grow up. So I knew what I was going to do.
That's cool. So he was training you. He was your first sort of strongman coach, like first like intro into that world, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome. And that was you said you were in New York. You grew up
That's right.
in the city or
Long Island.
Long Island? Okay, cool. Um, so uh the email list that you have now, are there people on there that have been there since the early days, like personal trainer Elliott, or this is a different list at this point?
So, man, it's been so long. So first of all, I had an autoresponder service. I think it was called Autoresponse Pro or something like that. That was hosted on a server that I owned because there was no Aweber back then. There were no
Mhm.
autorespond. And so part of going to Matt Basak's workshop was I'm going to give you this proprietary brand new software that I had helped develop that will allow you to email people automatically. I was like, whoa, really? So part of what we got when we went to his workshop was we signed up for the web host, some odd one, and that doesn't even exist anymore. I'll tell you a story about that. And so here I was on a subscription. You didn't have to pay for the autoresponder because it was hosted on the server. So I just paid for the server.
Mhm.
Well, anyway, I built up that list and I was doing all kinds of different things to build the list back then, uh, article marketing was big back then. So, write articles and have the squeeze page at the end of my article. So was press releases were big back then. And there were also like these services where you would pay and they would market your newsletter. And so I did like a couple of these like newsletter marketing websites and I built it up. And it was like, I don't know, 30,000 people or something like that. And then Matt Basak sold his hosting company that it was served on. And the new owner decided that they didn't want to have this autoresponder on there anymore. And essentially, I don't know how it happened, but they like locked, I think like a virus got in there somehow, and they decided that they didn't want to fix it. And so they just locked everybody out of their autoresponder and they lost their list. I lost my list. I was like, okay,
Whoa,
well, what the fuck am I going to do now?
that's and you had 30,000 people on there at that point?
I don't remember exactly,
Okay,
but it
yeah,
was a
it was a
lot.
lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I really didn't know, I really wasn't making that much money with it, but I was getting ready to, you know what I mean? I was
Mhm.
still making the ebooks and I was doing stuff. And then so I had to start from scratch. And the way I started from scratch, so right around this time was when social media started, Facebook
Right.
started coming out. Facebook came out. And so I bought an Aweber account and I got on Facebook and I started friend requesting all different types of people that I knew that were, because they didn't even have Facebook fan pages back then.
Right.
You had your Facebook profile, 5,000 people could follow you. And then I would just go and I just like anybody who was like a power lifter or a bodybuilder or athlete, I just go and follow them, go and follow them, go and follow them. And then I would put my squeeze page up on my profile, you know, offering something. That's how I started building it again. And then not too long after that, product launches started to become a thing. I don't know if you remember this, probably like 2010. You know, product launch formula
Right.
was sort of like brand new. This was like Frank Kern and guys like that. Who
Right.
was it?
Jeff Walker.
Jeff Walker. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff Walker. And so that's how it really started growing afterwards, because everybody in the fitness industry was doing these product launches. And a part of what you do with product launch is you have affiliates sent to a squeeze page so that people can go through a email sequence.
Hmm.
And so it really started building from there. And
Okay.
so at that point, it's, you know, the list has grown. I think my legacy list right now, which is just a mess, it needs
Okay.
to be like cleaned up, is
Gotcha.
like 270,000 people.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
but right now I'm only emailing to about 40,000
Right.
because, you know, 270,000 people that have opted onto an email list 10 years ago,
Yeah.
half of them are probably dead.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
I've had to really like, this became a thing too, because it wasn't even possible to do this back in the day. You have to you have to like clean the list, you
Right.
know, and that's, so right now I got a 40,000 person list.
Yeah. Um, so when you started Strength Camp, was that after you had already been doing a lot of this stuff? So like you had products, you had the internet marketing side of things, and then you decided to start a gym, or did the gym come
Yeah.
first?
No, internet marketing came first
Okay.
because I was using the squeeze pages to get clients for my personal training.
Right. So how did it come about that you decided to start Strength Camp?
Well, I moved down to Florida. I started working at a fitness gym, and
Mhm.
I very quickly rose in the ranks as the top trainer, which basically means who can sell the most training packages. Within 6 months, I was the top trainer. And I was like, how can I continue to grow? Like, I've sold all my time. Like, what am I going to do next? So I started trying to market. I was like, well, I got to market outside of the gym because they're not giving me enough leads anymore. And I just started expanding my view. And in that's when I discovered ebooks.
Okay.
And so, but anyway, you're asking me how I started the gym. This all kind of like happened parallel.
Yeah.
I left. So because I knew how to create squeeze pages, because I was trying to get more leads for them to come into the gym, but the gym that I was working for, they weren't privy to this stuff yet. So I was ahead of my time. So I was like, you know what? I don't need you guys. I can get my own leads. And so I left and I bounced from, yoga studio to chiropractic office to, other like small gyms, bringing and getting clients through my squeeze pages and bringing them to where I was working there. I usually pay rent, a couple $100 a month or whatever
Hmm.
to train my clients there. But I wanted my own place. I was like, I don't want to keep, I had to follow these people's rules, right? Like I can't make noise or whatever like that, or I got to listen to gay
Right.
music or whatever.
Right.
So I then started training people in the park. This was before boot camps was a thing.
Right.
And so like there was no regulations on it. It was like, so people would drive by the city parks and they'd see me out there with a group of people working out. And it was like, what is going on over there? I had a big banner, I put up a sign, strengthcamp.com, and they would go and they'd
Okay.
opt in, and then they'd learn about me training people in the park. And, you can only do that for so long until, you need a place. And so right around this time was when CrossFit first came out.
Okay.
And I stumbled upon the CrossFit website, and this guy was showing you how to just turn a garage, like a mini warehouse, into a gym. I was like, oh, I can do that. I don't have any equipment. I just have whatever trash I'm training people in the park, because I was training people in the park. I didn't have money for equipment. So I also met this guy, Zach Evanesh, who was another, very early online fitness marketer. And he was training people with sandbags, tire sleds, stones. He was the guy that like introduced me to strongman training. I was like, wow, I can train people with trash, kegs, right? Old
Yeah.
kegs back then. Like back then, now it's like trendy. But back then, you go to tire yard and they want to get rid of these giant tires. They're like, well,
Right.
we got to pay to recycle them. Now every, sissy boy has a tire at his gym and he thinks he's cool. I'm like, I don't want to blow my own horn, but I'm like, I'm the guy that made that popular, because you could go on my Strength Camp YouTube channel, 2007, and see a very grainy, old, crappy video made with a camera like this that
Yeah.
had a literal tape in it of me flipping a tire.
Oh man. So that's kind of like if you're driving along the highway and you see some big tire over on the side, that kind of it brings it back for you, man.
That's what I did. I
Yeah,
drove around and I collected tires that were
that's
out for
awesome.
trash.
That's awesome. How did you I'm I don't know why this is a question for me, but like how did you come up with just the idea of Strength Camp? Because it's such a cool brand, and I feel like and maybe that's just easy for me to say now because you've built it into such a huge brand, but how did you like why Strength Camp? What made you do that?
Because there were people that were doing cardio camps, meaning like when you watch most people do boot camps, they're just running around, they're doing jump jacks, they're just flailing around. They're not really getting stronger. And for, being an ex-football player, and also I had come across strongman competitions and stuff. And so I was literally teaching people how to get stronger in the park. So it was a
Mhm.
camp, but it wasn't like a cardio boot camp. That's what they were popular. Cardio fat loss boot camps. Come out here and run around for an hour and you'll drop weight. Well, I was like, screw that. I'm gonna bring weights out to the
Mhm.
park and we're gonna lift in the park. And so you're getting stronger at the camp.
Okay. Um, so how long did it take, I guess, before it became, because you kind of like, you went through a period of struggling with it for a while, right? I think I saw that, you went through a period of having like a lot of debt and everything in the beginning when you were kind of
Oh yeah.
starting. Um, that's kind of like me starting my business. I went into $45,000 just credit cards because I didn't know why that was wrong to do that. I just like did that. But so you kind of went through that period. How did it, just tell me about that? Like take me through, how did you get from that sort of struggle point with that business to making it a success?
Well, I I do best when my back's against the wall. That's just my nature.
Okay.
I'm less of a goal-oriented person, although I'm trying to become one. When
Hmm.
it comes to, when it comes to business, when it comes to fitness, I'm goal-oriented, especially strength. I'm goal-oriented.
Hmm.
When it comes to business, it's more it's more a matter of me running away from pain than running towards pleasure. And so I knew that I had a fire in my ass because I was $90,000 in debt plus student loans.
Right.
And I was a young dad at the time. I got married at age 23, started having children at age 24. And so I had no choice but to figure out how to make this work. And
Hmm.
so, very ambitious, working from dusk till dawn, no breaks, just focus.
Hmm.
And at a certain point, I realized, no matter how hard I work, I'm not going to get out of this debt. This is crazy.
Hmm.
It was just way too much. It was just, a lot of, it was just dumb. And so I hired a company that negotiates debt pay off,
Right.
and they put me on a payment plan where I had to come up with $2,000. It was like $2,500 a month, which I was barely making at the time.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I got to figure out how to make this happen. And so I got to pay off. Every month I got to come up with $2,500. And I think I had to do that for like, I think I did that for like 20 months or something like that. It was like, it was maybe 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I only missed one payment, I had one payment late, but it was that pressure on me that forced me to really make the internet thing work, because my gym was just was not doing it.
Okay.
So right about that same time, God is good. It's just grace, and then I'm not saying that I never put the effort, but certain things are just out of your hand. You know that, like, God will just drop something on your lap and it'll be like, boom. Oh, wow. Okay. So this is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that comes in the form of people, at least it had for me. And I met a guy named Mike Westerdahl. And so he and I teamed up to create, well, actually, even before him, man, there's so many good things that happened to me. Before that, though, I met, what's his name? Russell Brunson.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This was Russell Brunson in like 2010. He
Okay.
just came out. He just came out with something called micro continuity.
Okay.
I was like, ooh. And so you would
sounds cool, right?
Yeah. And so I was like, wow, this looks pretty cool. How the hell did I find Russell Brunson? I don't even remember how I found the guy.
Everyone finds him somehow,
But this was way before ClickFunnels, man.
Okay.
This was like literally, I think it was his first thing. Like he just came out. He literally just came out, and it was this micro continuity. It was like 2010. And this saved me too. This is actually the first thing that saved me. I created so the whole idea behind micro continuity was this. You create, oh man, I remember the whole format. You create a squeeze page that has a video on it. So this is one of the first times video started coming about. On the video, you say, hey, I'm going to give you my number one best tip for how to get bigger, faster, and stronger for football. Listen up. Do X, Y, and Z. And most people don't know why, but here's why, and here's what you got to do. Now, if you like that tip, put your name and email address in the bottom here, and I'll give you 2 more tips that will help you get bigger, faster, stronger. So they would opt in to get the next 2 tips. On that video, you give 2 tips, and then you promise a free CD. Back then, it was CDs.
Okay.
I will mail you a free CD that goes in length of this whole system that I'm offering you here. It's a free CD. But what happens is when you buy that CD, you automatically get enrolled in a monthly continuity.
Right.
So they would get that free CD, but now they were being billed $67 a month to get my DVD of the month. And I was literally shooting with my flip cam. I don't know if you guys remember what a flip cam is, but
yeah,
it was like a little square box like this, and you flip out the USB so you can plug it into your thing.
Right.
And you'd film like this. Before phones had, back then phones were still flip phones. Phones looked like this too. Right? You had to push button. And so I would make DVDs. I literally would just film, and then I'd sit and I'd edit the workout. I'd give like, a little motivational talk in the beginning. I'd edit the workout of the month. I had Vervante, and I made my own covers and everything. Damn, I did a lot of work. I made my own DVD covers. Like I have a brand new cover every month. And then I had this printing and shipping company would produce them and send them out. And at one point I must have about almost 100 people sending me $67 a month for my DVD of the month.
Wow. So that's kind of how it started. The business started to grow at that point, the online side.
Yeah, there was that. It was all football training for me.
Okay.
So there was that. And I also had a football training ebook, but it wasn't even an ebook. No, it was a binder that had CDs. So you'd open up the binder and it would be like a leaf that had CDs in it. And then it was the binder with you flip through the pages. And so I was mailing those out for like $197. This
And
was
were
like
you
2008.
okay? So you were on YouTube at that point. You were starting to get on YouTube. Um, and this was kind of like, were you getting a lot of the people who were opting in and doing this, were they coming from YouTube at that point, or were they um you said you were just going out and like friend requesting people on Facebook and everything? I guess what I'm asking is, how did the YouTube side of it kind of start?
So I discovered it was like, it's common sense now, but back then it was like mind blowing to me. I was like, wait a second. I created my YouTube videos just because I wanted more clients in my gym. So
Mm-hmm.
I make the YouTube videos and I tell my clients, hey, share this with your friends so they can see what you're doing and you come to my gym. And their friends would watch it and they'd be like, oh, wow, that's cool, man. Wow, you're on YouTube. And then they'd want to come to the gym. So I got a lot of clients that way. But then I started to notice that like people from all over were watching the videos. I was like, how are people even finding my videos? I know nothing about YouTube except how to upload. I don't watch YouTube. I'm not trying to be a YouTube celebrity. I don't know anything about YouTube except how to plug my phone in and upload the videos and I go away.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even go back to look at the comments or the statistics. It was just like, it's out there now and just share it with my friends to get more clients. Then one day, I don't know why, I went and I looked at, I was like, wait a second, this video, it's just me trying to show people how to come to my gym. And it's got like 1,000 views. Like, who the hell is watching this? And I didn't know if they had analytics back then or anything. I had no idea who was watching it, where they're coming from. But I was like, there's no way that this is just the people that I'm sharing this video with. There's got to be more people watching this. So then I started reading the comments and I saw questions. I was like, oh, people are asking me questions about this. So then I would answer a question. I was like, I made a video where I answered a question that was in a comment. And when I started to notice that those videos were getting views, I then put my squeeze page in the video, in the description.
Okay.
I was like, oh, so I started making a call to action at the end of the videos. I literally am probably one of the first people to ever do this. And I hate to be blowing my horns, but it just shows how old I am. And like, because I'm making this stuff up all as I'm going along, I'm like, I didn't read any books. I didn't take any courses on this because when I learned about squeeze pages, there was no YouTube. So I was like, what would happen if I put my squeeze page in the description and at the end of the video say, hey, if you want my free report, click down below. Next thing you know, I got like 500 people just signed up. I'm like, oh, I just hit a gold mine.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that maybe once a week. This was my mindset. I was like, once a week or even every other week. I was like, I don't want to make too many videos. So I just made a video every once in a while. And every time I made a video, I'd get a flood of people. It never occurred to me to make more videos. I was just like, that's, a TV show comes on once a week. So I'll just make one video a week. And then, so I'm making all these videos. I'm making these videos and I'm mainly just a e-publisher, just trying to get people to buy my DVDs and my ebooks and stuff. And then one day a company reaches out to me and is like, hey, Elliott, would you be interested in monetizing your YouTube channel? What do you mean monetize my YouTube channel? I'm already monetizing. I'm selling my ebooks.
Oh man.
And I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, well, you turn on advertisements and you make money from the advertisement. And I'm like, nah. I was like, I don't know corny ass commercials on my videos. It's going to distract people from buying my stuff. So I didn't want to do it. And then they were like, listen, we have these brothers, these twin brothers here who are partners with us also. Let me have them reach out to you and they could tell you what's going on. The Hodge twins.
I was going to say, that's awesome.
So I don't know. I think it was Keith hit me up. This was like 2011. He's like, bro, why are you not monetizing your videos? Why don't you join this company and get some monetization on your videos? And I was like, I don't know, because how much money could I possibly make? And he laughed and he was like, okay, do me a favor. You join and turn on your ads in the first month and then hit me up. I was like, okay, fine. So I was like, all right, let me give it a try. First check, $8,000. Second check, $18,000. Went but a year that I was making $30,000 a month, and I stopped making ebooks. I was like, this is free money.
Yeah.
And so that's when Yo Elliott came about.
Okay.
I was like, I'm making a video every day.
Right.
So that's why I rose so quickly on YouTube, because between 2012 and 2014, again, I was a pioneer in this, that I was one of the first guys that made daily videos.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, if I'm making this much with these many videos, I'm going to make even more videos. Now, today that goes against the rules for algorithms and stuff like
Right.
that. And apparently that can screw you up. But back then I was like one of the only kids on the block. So it was like everybody was watching my videos. There was no competition. The algorithm was loving me.
Right.
And so I had like, 1 million subscribers in a matter of like 6 months.
Right. That's really, Elliott, I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. Do you have a hard stop, or are you okay to go a little longer? Because
we can go a few more minutes. I do have another call at 4:30, but
okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So it kind of sounds like a few things happened in terms of like how you were kind of motivated in that time period to get that level of success with everything. Like part of it was having your back against the wall with the young family, the debt, and sort of having this struggle. And then that sort of was the initial, I guess, catalyst to get you, somewhere, right? From like out from underneath that rock that you're kind of like struggling to get past. And then you started to have, basically at that point, I guess, the money sort of became the motivation once you realized that you could do it at that level.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm curious because I feel like a lot of people in business, in online business, and maybe this is because it's so much more now, like so many more people doing it. I feel like there is, I guess it's more rare to get past that struggle phase. Like people get demotivated, or they kind of feel like, is this really worth it? And they sort of give up. What would you say to that? And does it take strength to sort of push past that initial barrier? Does everyone have to go through that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there are two things, both of which, well, let me put it this way. The thing that they don't have, one of the things that most people don't have that I had, was a real struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You have no family, you have no mouths to feed, you have nothing to really struggle for. Just you. It's a big deal. If you make $500 a month, you'll be fine living in your parents' basement. Even if you have your own apartment, like what, you could literally get by with what, $2,000 a month, you'll be fine. There's no real pressure. But me, we were popping out babies left and right. And so I had a family. And so for me, there was real pressure there. I was like, I want a good life for my family. Most guys are Spartans. It's just our nature. We're minimalists. Just most guys, when we have stuff, it's because of women. If you have stuff, it's either you're trying to attract women or you're trying to help a woman create a family, right? But if women are involved, most guys, you ever see those memes? It's so funny. Like it's just an empty room with like a chair. Yeah. It's like a lawn chair and a TV with a game console.
Yeah, that's going around.
It says most men could live like this and see that there's no problem.
Right.
And it's true, because like, what the fuck? I don't need anything. So there's really no motivation to go out there and do anything unless you have the pressure of a family. That's number one.
Okay.
For a lot of guys, there are those that are motivated by ascension. But I think most of us, include myself included, it's more inertia. I'd rather do other things. So that's one. But the other thing is this. And so that's not having something push you from behind. But the thing that's in front of them is fake. It's FOMO. They're not actually chasing something they want. They're chasing what they see other people have. So it's not authentic. And so what happens is when you're chasing what somebody else has, because they already have it, you want it now too. So you want to defy all the laws of nature associated with how you get there. So if they don't have it within 6 months, they're thinking, wow, this doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It took me, I told you I started making websites and stuff in 2005. It wasn't until, it took me 7 years. 7 years to really start getting some momentum in my business.
Mm-hmm.
7 years. You guys, I mean, I say you, but I'm saying like your generation, because there's social media. I didn't have social media. You're seeing all these 21-year-olds with $1 million, and you're like, well, I've been working for 6 months. This is not going to happen. Why am I not there yet? And so not only do you have nothing pushing you from behind because you have no responsibilities, you're not accountable to anybody for anything, but you're chasing clouds. You're chasing stuff that's not even in alignment with who you are as a human being. You just see that because he had that and you think you want that. And because he got it now, you think you're supposed to have it now too.
So what should someone do if they're in that position where they're like, damn, yeah, like there's not enough pressure pushing me from behind. I don't have a family that's and there's another side to that too also, which is I feel like a lot of people feel like they want to break free of sort of the daily like monotonous 9 to 5 that they've gotten themselves into, but because of their family, maybe they don't want to take that risk, right? So there is that side of it too. But if I guess on either side, how do you create that pressure then?
I don't know, because it depends on the person. It depends on what motivates you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm a family man. I was always going to be a family man. I'm an entrepreneur. I was always going to be an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur before it was cool to be an entrepreneur. I want you to understand that. I discovered it when I was 14 because my uncle, not because of Instagram. You see the difference? It never occurred to me. And so my desire was genuine. Do you see what I'm saying? Because and I knew what it was I was going to do. I was going to be a personal trainer. So it was like, it was in me. It was in my DNA to have that happen. Same thing with family. Family is like in my DNA. I come from a big family. My father preached family my whole life. I knew I was going to have a big family. I married my high school girlfriend, and in our yearbook, it says we're going to have 7 children, and I was going to be a strength coach. I got the strength coach part right. So what I'm saying is that this is actually me. This wasn't a cool idea. This wasn't something I saw on Instagram. I guess maybe I did see it. I was inspired by my uncle, right? I saw him do this. I was inspired by my friend who was making money with the chat rooms. But I don't know. I think I could be wrong, but I think a lot of people's motivation is disingenuous. I don't think it's really who they are and what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think it comes from a flimsy place. There's a flimsy foundation. And I think what's required is a better sense of who you are and why you're here and what you're doing and why you're doing it. Why? What is your why? So I think that's important, right? And I sound like I'm making a lot of blame and bold statements about the way other people are, but rather than, coming from the negative standpoint, the positive is discover what it is that you're about. What are you about? What are you doing here? Who are you here to serve? And if you're here to serve yourself just to make a lot of money, that's authentic too.
Mm-hmm.
There are just guys that are brilliant money makers. Like, that's my gift. My gift is to make money. Wow, that's awesome. So those guys are actually exercising their gift.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, because it sort of, when you were talking about that, I got curious about this. Like, your family and your family, you're a first generation American, right? So yes. you came over from Belize, right?
No.
Oh, but your family's from Belize, I meant.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm curious, when you were going through that period, that sort of like those 7 years where you were pushing and pushing to get your online business off the ground, and kind of you said it took 7 years to really start to build that momentum. What did your family think at that time? What were they supportive? And like, even like your father and like your parents, your family, and also the young family that you had, were they like behind you at that point, or did they think you were kind of crazy for doing this because it was so new? Curious about that.
So I got more pushback trying to be a personal trainer than I did an online entrepreneur, because my parents saw my uncle and the way he lived, and he doesn't have a family, and he kind of is a Spartan too, and he could live on. He's also very meager, like he doesn't need very much, so he was never very affluent. He was a personal trainer making just enough so that he could buy chicken breast and broccoli. And so my parents saw that and they were like, you can't raise a family like that. Uncle Elroy can do that because he's just take care of himself, and he buys chicken breast. How are you going to feed a family? And so I got more pushback for that. And I did it anyway. I just knew that I had to, I just didn't listen to them. I was like, I'm going to do what I got to do anyway. They were right. I mean, it's really hard to raise a family on, a personal trainer's, what you make as a personal trainer. If you're just doing, now I'm not talking about online trainers or people that own gyms. I'm talking about just being a trainer like I was, and I got it. I understood that. But what they didn't know is I had in my back pocket how to use the internet. Well, my parents didn't know anything about the internet. They had no clue. And by that point, by the time I started using the internet to make money, I had moved out of their house already, and I was already doing my own thing. So the only next moment that my parents realized, oh, my son's doing something on this internet, is when my mom got a Facebook account, like out of nowhere. And then she followed me on Facebook, and she's like, you're making all these videos. All these people are watching you. What are you doing? And then I explained to them, I was like, well, this is what I'm doing. This is how, and so I didn't even really, I didn't tell them. I didn't know it. It's just, They found out by accident. And by then I already had some momentum. So they were like, wow, this is pretty cool. Keep going.
Yeah. And like when you were going through that building phase, what did your wife think at the time? Like, was she supporting you, or was she kind of like scared, or like?
She was never scared. My wife is not scared. She trusts me. So she just do. So first of all, it's good to marry a woman that doesn't have too high of expectations, because she came from like, a pretty broken, messed up family. And my family was I was already a step above in that regard. So whatever I could do was good enough for her. And so I appreciated not having that pressure. I grew up on Long Island with a lot of Japs, and I like the Jewish girls too. And they all came from, I always thought they were cute. And so if I had married one of them, they nor their parents would have been satisfied with my, way of going about doing things. So, but I just married this, redneck girl, and, her parents were just happy that she got married. And so there was never really like pressure to buy expensive bags or go on vacations, or, she was satisfied with little, which made it very easy for me. I wanted to provide more. That pressure came from me, but she never gave me a hard time about it, or tried to force me or guilt me into making more. But when I did start making more, she appreciated it. Very grateful for it. She's my biggest cheerleader.
Your children, you have 4 kids, right?
No.
All right. How old are they? They're pretty young still, right?
12, 14, 16, 18.
Okay. What do you tell them about the internet, about online business? Is it something you would encourage them to sort of do what you did in a way? Not necessarily the same thing, but like make money online? Or does that idea kind of be like, what do you think of that? I don't even know if they'd be interested in that necessarily, but just as a hypothetical, like, what do you tell them about it?
Well, I got some strange thoughts about these kind of things. I have 3 daughters. And so my highest aspiration for my daughters is for them to marry a good husband that can take care of them so that they can make lots of babies and I can be a grandfather. I don't have these aspirations that a lot of men have for their daughters to be CEOs or some, powerful entrepreneur.
For sure.
But I do expect them to know how to create an income, not out in the world working for some man that's not their husband, but they should know how to, yeah, it's so dumb. I don't get it. But they should know how to create little hustles, like create an Etsy store. One of my daughters is real into making nails. I was like, so she makes TikTok videos. I was like, just make TikTok videos showing people how you make the nails, and then maybe you can be an affiliate for the nail products. So now she's working with Sephora, and she's trying to figure out how she can become an affiliate or retailer. She had bought eyelashes, and so we got a whole fucking box full of eyelashes. We still got to sell, but they're kind of out of style now. So I do encourage. One of my daughters she's super entertaining. Like, she was in theater when we lived back in St. Pete. There's not too much of that here now. She's like magnetic, her personality. Like, you can't not notice her, and she just smiles and a lot of energy. So she's kind of in an awkward stage right now, but I'm like, why don't you just make YouTube videos? Make YouTube videos telling jokes, make YouTube videos, being entertaining and informative, right? And so I think she has some reservations because she's afraid, like, what we're going to say about the things that she does and stuff. So still trying to encourage her to do that. I have another daughter. My oldest daughter is really good at writing. And I'm like, why don't you write books, write literature, like write fiction novels? Like, and so we just signed her up for master classes online. So she's watching like James Patterson videos about how to be an author. So I encourage them all to be at-home entrepreneurs, right? Because I think it's important for them to have little hustles, but I don't think it's beneficial to have them out in the world. I want them to work at home. Because even if when they do get married and have children, there'll come a time when it's like, hey, look, at least you have a side hustle that you could do to help your husband if you don't work for him, right? So I want them to be helpful in that way. Even in the Bible, it says that a Proverbs 31 woman is she's industrious. She should be industrious. She should know how to produce, but not as a man or trying to be a man out in the corporate world, hustling and being a boss bitch. Because what that does is it depolarizes the relationship. And so the woman starts becoming very masculine. And another thing is that the women start making more money than the man. That eliminates most of the marketplace for men, because women don't want to marry a man that makes less money than them. So, it's not a matter of holding them back, but it's about helping them magnify their greatest gifts, which, they watch their mother and they see that's a great way to be. Now, my son, on the other hand, he's the youngest. So he's into the screens already. So, I'm trying, like, I have him help me with some like mundane, like maybe data stuff on my websites and stuff. But I also want him to be practically useful. So my dad's coming here to live with us, and I'm just going to send him to go hang out with my dad all day long as my dad's building a house in the back. I'm like, go learn how to build a house with grandpa, because you got to know how to work with your hands too, as a young man. So I want him to learn how to do plumbing, how to do electrician work, like, very practical man work. So, but who knows? This is just my crazy ideas.
So just to kind of bring it back around to sort of your kind of the evolution of your business, because now you mentioned like your email list has, it started way back in the early days, like 2005 or something. And that legacy list is like 300,000 people almost now, but there's like, 40,000 or something that are still there with you. How has that changed over the years as you've evolved your personal brand, sort of like the content that you've put out and everything has gone through a lot of different like phases and things. Do you feel like a lot of people on your email list have kind of stayed with you and followed you because you've been writing to them consistently, right? Have you kept up with the email list?
I don't want to say the biggest mistake, but one of the stumbling blocks for me was when I stopped writing my own emails.
Okay.
Because I lost my connection to my audience. And so I know that, and so there was a phase there between 2015 to, well, quite up until quite recently, where I was outsourcing my email writing and, trying
Mhm.
to automate it and
Yeah.
stuff. And it doesn't, if I'm going to do well, I have to write my own emails because I have to be fully engaged with what message I'm giving on a daily basis. Writing daily emails or batching them once a week is so critical for me to keep my finger on the pulse of
Right.
who's listening to me and what I'm saying to them, rather than outsourcing it and like wondering, and I find out later what I said. And I'm like, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I got to know what I'm saying right now. And so I know that when I started out, I was writing all my emails and I had a strong hold on my brand and on my company and my business. Now I'm kind of in a rebuilding phase in a way. And one of the very first thing I did, because I'm restructuring, I broke up with a business partner and I'm starting all over again. The very first thing I did to start all over again was get back to my emails. It was the thing that screwed me up was I one day I decided, let me go into, I was using ClickFunnels and Mailgun. I'm like, all right, well,
Mhm.
fine. Because we migrated it to that one day and I just pawned it off. And one day I go in and I'm just looking around to see what's going on with the email list and stuff. Open rates are in the freaking tank, getting all kinds of like responses that I've never seen. And I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have never written this had I known,
Yeah.
or just like a lot of drop balls. And so that like tugged at my heart. And I was like, no, the lifeblood of the business is the email list.
Yeah.
And so the very first thing I did is that I went and I started scrubbing that list. That's why, I went from 270,000, which is like, it's 270,000 trash,
Yeah.
to then I started like, segmenting based on opens. And now I'm like, I learned how to use Zapier and I'm like getting the right people and automating stuff. And I'm like, now I'm building once again a solid connection with my audience through the email.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that you had that like outsourced for a while. Did I'm just curious just because of sort of your, you know, uh as you've evolved over the years, you've taken a lot of different positions on things, and like, at a point you were uh you know just it was like different types of content, right? And so do you ever get like hate from people who have been sort of like followers of yours from a long time, from the beginning or whatever, that have been, do you ever get like hate emails or anything like that where people are just kind of reactive to who you are right now and what you're doing?
So one of the things our mutual friend JC said to me the other day, I asked him because he did this blog post, or this I'm sorry, he did this TikTok where he was like, I asked my three closest friends, what are three things that I could do better? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that too. And I said, JC, tell me what I could do better. And he was very blunt. He was like, you keep changing and you confuse the crap out of your audience. And I was like, yeah. And
Mhm.
so I know that my biggest limitation is me. I got ADD. So I'm all over the place, but it's because I have so many interests.
Right.
I have like I love going in all these different directions. I genuinely have all these interests, but the people who are following me chose a reason to follow me. So I can't blame them when I start talking about something that's way left field. And it's like, Elliot, I thought I was here for your lifting advice.
Yeah.
So I'm still in the same boat because I'm rebuilding right now, and so I still catch myself doing the same thing. But what I'm doing right now, I've done this before, but I'm relaunching it, are survey funnels. And so I realize that there'll be my daily emails and what I write, and it's just basically the Elliott Hulse email. And if you like what I'm talking about, you're just hanging out because you like me. But then doing the ask funnels and just putting people in buckets that are associated with what they want.
Mhm.
And I think I don't, I haven't done it yet.
That's interesting.
But I know because I know myself.
Yeah.
I'm just going to change my mind. I'm going to talk about other stuff. I like doing it, but I confuse the audience. So this is just in my mind right now, and I don't know, if it's going to work or what, but I'm probably going to start separate YouTube channels. So there are only 4 things that I really actually like to talk about. And there are only really 3 things that most men want. And so having just channels for those 3 things. Right now, if you go to Elliott Hulse YouTube channel, you'll find a video about how to quit porn, and the next video will be about how to pray. And like,
yeah.
And then I'll be like, how to lift, how to build bigger muscles, and then it'll be like, how to send emails, whatever. So it's just a mess, and my audience is totally confused, and my views are down. And I know it's because of my broadness and my attention deficit. I don't know how you would say it, but basically I'm all over the place.
Well, but that's one of the cool things I think about having like a personal brand is that they're getting you're getting to a person evolves, right? A person now is not the same person they were 10 years ago. That's just not reality usually. Or I mean, some people, yeah, but if someone's actually working on themselves, they're building a business, they have like values, they have goals, they have things they're trying to reach, that's going to evolve. And so what's cool about just like today and the internet is like that you can be in someone's audience, you can subscribe to that person's list and get a view ongoing of how that person is evolving. And that's just the authentic them. And I think for me, that's what I admire about you is that you have sort of just put your persona out there publicly for the last 15 or more years now. And you have this consistent audience that has followed you. Sure, people drop off and new people come and the interests change, but your audience though, that feels this connection with you has stayed the entire time. And that's really sort of, that's why when I talk about the email revolution, I'm talking about this new era we sort of live in where anyone can really have that connection, where they can develop an audience that way. I guess where I'll sort of leave this off, because I know we're kind of about to be out of time here, but what do you think is sort of like the future for you with your audience and just Elliott, your brand, what you're doing? What's sort of your, if you kind of look ahead, fast forward next 5-10 years, how does it change?
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying just keep doing what you're doing, E. And in a way, I have no choice. I probably will. But if I'm going to sell more products, I got to be specific to what that person wants. I got to solve a problem. Or maybe not, right? Like I just sell myself sometimes, and that's been working. But I would like to solve specific problems. I would like to solve specific problems like I did when I was a strength coach. And like I said before, there's only 3 things that guys want. They want sex, 6-pack abs, and 6 figures. And after that, it's pretty much good. So I'm good with the 6-pack stuff. I've taught, I've made my stamp, and I've done quite a bit with that. I recently started a mastermind called Get the Girl for Life, right? Because I'm not a pickup artist, but I can tell you how to have a wife.
Right.
And I know that this culture sucks because marriage and family sucks. And it's sex, right? It falls under that category, but it's not a sexy thing to even talk about marriage because, it's counterculture today. It's so odd to even consider one person and make babies and have grandchildren. Like, that's weird. Are there too many people on the planet? Like, don't you just want to have sex with 1,000 women instead of one? And so, but I think that I think I'm noticing the zeitgeist, especially Gen Z. They're so fascinating. There's sort of a pendulum swim coming back where they're wanting tradition because the world has been so chaotic that,
For sure.
it's crazy. So I'm noticing like a lot of these young guys, they're like, I just want a wife. And I'm like,
yeah,
I can help you with that. So I'm kind of foraying into that a little bit right now. We'll see how that unfolds. But then the other one is 6 figures. And so I've been polling my audience recently to find out, like, what do you guys, what do you want? What can I help you with? An overwhelming majority of them want to know, how can I build a side hustle, Elliott? How can I do what you're doing? I want to make money like you at home. And so I'm sort of dipping my toe in that right now and deciding how I want to go about showing guys how to make money.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are just two sort of arenas that you might see me speak a little bit more towards.
Do you ever think about the fact that you're one of the, I think, earliest people, like earliest humans, who there exists like a documented chronicle of your life and your success and your different, different viewpoints you've had over the years, and even like your personal spiritual journey and everything, that it's out there online. And one day, like, your kids and your grandkids are going to be able to look at it and be like, well, Elliott said this, and then somebody else will be like, well, he also said this. Like,
Right.
does that ever, do you ever think about that? I'm just curious.
I do. It's so funny because just yesterday I watched one of my videos. It was just one that I recently made. And then all of a sudden YouTube started feeding me all these videos from 10 years ago. I'm like, and my wife's looking over my shoulders and she's like, who's that guy? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even look like that. This is crazy. And so I'm scrolling through and I'm actually like in awe a little bit. I'm like, wow, 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I'm like, who is this kid? So it's funny that you bring that up today, because just yesterday it kind of struck me. I'm like, wow, I got a long history. I've been doing this damn thing for a long time. It's actually pretty cool. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty cool. If my grandkids, now they might find stuff, they'll find stuff that's not very, how could you say, dignifying, right? They'll find things about me or things people say about me, and it's like, they'll make them cringe,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, it's there. But then there's also thousands and thousands of videos and perhaps millions of people who have benefited from some of the things I've said when I was like 27 years old. So it's like, wow, yeah. I'm just in awe. It's weird. It's crazy. I also, this is my conspiracy theorist sort of coming out. I don't know. I'm a little, because I guess I grew up without the internet. I'm still a little like, not sure. Like, this stuff is like digital. It's in the clouds. Like, all of it can be erased like that.
That's
like
true.
if these were on DVDs, right? Or they were on cassette tapes, unless the house burns down, they'll last forever.
Right.
All this, the digital world, they call it a cloud, like you're in the cloud, because it literally can disappear. So I don't put too much stock in it, like this is the record of Elliott Hulse that will last forever. A part of me is like, you know what? I think one day they're just going to push a button and delete us all. And so you ever hear about like the book burnings, right? Like the elites have been burning books for forever. They don't need to burn books anymore. You know why? Because they created a tiny little Kindle. And you think that's interesting? A Kindle is a little fire. And you have the Kindle Fire. Remember, Kindle Fire was the first place where the books came out. So my first thought was, they're taking all the book. They're not gonna make books anymore. They're gonna put them in the fire. Wow. They're burning them before they're burning them. So now we're looking at all this digital stuff in the fire, and eventually they don't have to burn it. They don't have to put a big pile and burn it. They just click a button, poof, erase an entire generation. You guys never existed. And there are worlds. I'm being a conspiracy theorist. There are lost worlds. Like, have you ever heard of the Tartarians? Tartaria?
No.
There are lost worlds that are erased from our record books, so that the world rulers could start all over again on top of civilizations. Ours will be the easiest civilization to erase, because all they got to do is unplug the cloud. Boom. They don't have to literally burn books. They don't even have, like right now, like all the beautiful architecture of the Middle Ages and stuff like that, all the wars destroyed them. They destroy them. Right. Since we started becoming more communist, all of the buildings are ugly. So there's nothing beautiful about our culture either in our literature that will last because it's all going into a fire, or about our architecture, and the art today is ugly. So we'll basically we'll be very easily erased because everything's in the cloud, and also because we're not producing anything beautiful anymore that's not in the cloud. Think about the art, like Ty Lopez, right? Didn't he pay like, several $1,000s for a fucking digital monkey?
I'd never heard of that.
These EFT, like, I think they call them EFTs
Oh,
or something like
NFTs, NFT.
that.
Yeah.
NFTs.
Okay. At first, I didn't know what you meant. No, I know that NFTs. We could go into a whole that I don't understand that at all, really. But man, I'm gonna have nightmares over what you just said, though. That's crazy, dude.
The fire. We're all going into
Yeah,
fire.
the Kindle
Hey, anyway,
Fire.
I have a call
Yeah,
at 4:30, so I gotta run.
Elliott, thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to link to Elliott's Instagram and his YouTube and website down below, Elliott Hulse. We're going to have to do this again sometime, man. We'll have to do it in person next time. I really,
good,
really appreciate you being on, and you take care. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, Josh, you too, buddy.